All right, guys. So we're going to be talking about the growth and spread of Islam. In the last video, we talked about the rise of Islam, but really the growth and spread is how what really we know now as traditional Islamic culture and religious viewpoints and all that. So let's go ahead and dive into some of this. So just make sure that you are respectful in all that we do. And this is for any religion, any culture, right? We got to make sure that we look at these cultures, and a lot of times, unfortunately, we don't understand in our heritage certain culture groups, and so this is across the board. And one of the reasons why I feel very strongly that world history is such an important part of a school system that we need to study it, because a lot of times we have more of a Western European mindset, even if we're from a different a nationality or ethnicity. We have a mindset that is a lot of times focused on America Central or centrism, and so we just want to make sure that we look at a bigger picture and we say, hey, this really revolutionized the time period that we're talking about. So here we go. The growth and spread of Islam. Now here is the extent of Islam under the Prophet Muhammad. So we're talking. This is the Red Sea area. This is the Mediterranean Sea. This is where the area of the Jewish religions were to spread. This, of course, over here is the Persian regions, and over here is all of the Asian, and then we've got down in here the India regions. All right, so this is Arabia. This is a lot of desert, but this is where Mecca is and Medina. These are the two highlights of the Prophet Muhammad's roles. Okay, so after his death, the Ummah, which is the Muslim community, has to select a new leader. Well, this is becoming a problem because Muhammad actually had no son or designated heir. Now he did have daughters, so but no necessarily son, and he didn't make a decision on who he wanted to take and lead this new sect, religion, all that that you're dealing with, right? So one group felt that Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law and closest male relative, should become Islam's leader, and that follows a very tried and true universal Bedouin tradition that the closest male relative would continue. Another group wanted more experience and supported Abu Bakr, which is Muhammad's friend and father-in-law and a military leader, which that was got a good portion of the spread of Islam was based on military conquest. All right, so the four rightly guided caliphs. Abu Bakr is chosen as the first caliph or deputy of the Prophet, and this causes a very specific and important split, because we're still dealing with that today in the different Islamic cultures and belief systems. All right, he fought against the Bedouin tribes who wanted to break away from the Ummah and maintained unity through military conflict. Right, he and the next three caliphs caliphs are known as the rightly guided or the Rashidun. All right, that's what we talk about. Right, so the Abu Bakr is those who supported later become known as the Sunnis, and that is the Sunni sect of Islam. And then those who wanted Ali and his son Hussein become known as the Shia, or known as the Shiite. Okay, so that's where you get the Sunni and the Shiites. Now this division is still around today, and the Sunni is the larger of that majority group. And one of the interesting things about being in Iraq when I was there is that you had to know who you were talking with. You had to know whether they followed the Shia or the Shiite traditions or the Sunni focus, right? And so that was a big part of that. So I'm not going to actually pronounce this because I will butcher it. And I don't want to do that. All right. So the second caliph, he became the second one after Abu Bakr's death. Umar maintained unity by dividing the spoils of war, and then he spreads Islam. He is probably one of the most one of the quickest to spread. These are not actually religious wars necessarily, but a way to promote and maintain unity among the Bedouin community. There was a lot of economics that were at play in this spread. All right. The third caliph. He spreads Islam through Egypt and into northern Africa. Again, I don't want to butcher a name, so I'm not going to even try. If that offends, I apologize, but I just want to make sure. The Umayyads originally were opposed to Muhammad long ago, and some members of the Ummah resented him. And Uthman is assassinated in 659, so really not that far. Past Muhammad's death. That did contribute to some growing tensions as well. Ali becomes the fourth caliph, and Ali is Muhammad's cousin and the second person to convert to Islam. Conflict arose and led to a kind of a Muslim governor of Syria being back and forth. Ali tried to resolve the conflict, but he is actually assassinated. All right, so this fourth caliph is assassinated. So this is kind of the role, right? So 632 to 661. So we're talking about a 30-year time period, and so there's really not a big spread of this. Now the one that ruled probably it looks like the longest was Uthman, but the spread really went with these two right here. Okay, so it goes out, and you see the spread up into Afghanistan region, up into the region of the Persian Empire, and of course this whole region of the Arabia, and then over into the North Africa region, and of course Spain we've talked about before. All right, so the spread really is the idea of jihad. Now sometimes we hear of jihad being a holy war, but not necessarily. This is more of the striving, the encouragement of expansion of Islam. And yes, it is talking about a holy war in the idea of to spread the ideology of the Muslim faith, but also the role of government as well. The Bedouins had superior military skills and created a strong army. We'll talk about the Huns and the Mongols later on, but they used some of the same techniques, quick strikes and using horses, those kind of things. So the Persians, Byzantine Empire were weak foes at this time. They had kind of had a lot of infighting. Non-Christians and Byzantine Empire and non-Zoroastrians. That's also a monotheistic religion. They were persecuted and welcomed Islamic invaders. So they basically, the Islamic invaders set them free and let them worship whoever they wanted to for a price. It's actually kind of an interesting thing that you could worship whatever god you wanted to as long as you paid a little bit of a premium on that. Islam's message of equality had wide appeal and did definitely spread among different people groups. Right. So the conquered peoples could maintain their own religions. As I said, they could pay a poll tax to avoid military duties, created a strong economic base, and those who converted to Islam avoided the poll tax. And of course, that added a little bit of incentive there. Okay, so when Islam expanded the old trade networks, the classical periods. This is where you get into the lower version of the Silk Road, and we'll talk more about the Silk Road later. But the centers of learning flourished in Cairo, Baghdad, Cordoba, and Spain, and really the way in which the Islamic scholars they took some of the writings from Alexandria that was burned, but they had taken some of those writings and they had copied those writings, and we have record of the writings today simply because of the Islamic scholars made sure that they brought a lot of those writings into their own community and the study as well. All right, so Arabic becomes the shared language of the Muslims, obviously because Arabic is considered the official language of the Islamic community, and Mecca becomes that international city where Muslims across Eurasia and Africa come together exchange information and cultural traditions. And it was really the hub, as along with Medina, but really the Mecca was that centralized hub of where everything spread out, because they could hit not only the roads up into the northern area, but they could use the seas. They could hit the Mediterranean very quickly, down into the Red Sea, down into the Persian Gulf, what we would now know as the Persian Gulf. So really an interesting spread of how the Islamic faith did move. And again, it's not just the faith, it's not just the religion, but it's also the ideas, economic principles of trade, and of course the government policies and principles as well. And even though there's been some conflict still to this day between the two groups that still to this day decide whether or not they're going to follow the son-in-law of Muhammad or the father-in-law of Muhammad, whether you're Sunni or Shiite, there's still a sense of community between all Muslims. And so that's a very interesting and unique way. If you do a lot more study on it, it's a beautiful type of philosophical ideology that does mesh a lot of not only the faith-based, but also the cultural and the political. All right, so that is the part of the rise and spread and growth of the Islamic not only faith but culture and political aspect, and we're going to get into the Silk Road next. All right guys, bye.